Children and family considerations for Aliyah represent the delightful challenge of convincing your offspring that voluntarily uprooting their entire existence represents an exciting adventure rather than parental punishment for unspecified childhood crimes, while simultaneously managing your own psychological meltdown about destroying your children's lives through selfish immigration decisions that will definitely require years of expensive therapy to undo the trauma you're about to inflict upon innocent young minds. This magnificent family adventure involves explaining to children that learning Hebrew, making new friends, and adapting to completely different cultural expectations represents character-building opportunities rather than cruel and unusual punishment inflicted by parents who clearly lost their sanity during some sort of midlife crisis involving religious awakening, professional dissatisfaction, or temporary insanity about Mediterranean lifestyle fantasies that ignore practical realities about raising children in foreign countries with incomprehensible bureaucratic systems. Educational system transitions. Academic culture shock therapy. Israel's educational system operates according to pedagogical approaches that make British schools seem like relaxing meditation retreats rather than actual learning environments, where Israeli classroom dynamics encourage student participation levels that would constitute disruptive behavior requiring immediate disciplinary intervention in British educational settings designed to maintain proper classroom order and appropriate respect for teacher authority. Israeli school choice involves navigating educational options more complex than university admission processes, where secular state schools, religious state schools, ultra-Orthodox schools, and private schools create educational marketplace competition that requires research skills typically reserved for doctoral dissertations and decision-making abilities that would challenge professional educational consultants with specialized training in comparative educational system analysis. Secular state schools provide education without religious content through teaching methods that encourage critical thinking, debate, and questioning authority in ways that British parents spent years trying to discourage as inappropriate behavior that undermines proper respect for adult supervision and established social hierarchy maintenance protocols designed to create well-behaved citizens rather than argumentative future revolutionaries. Religious state schools combine secular academic studies with Jewish religious education through integrated curricula that assume children can simultaneously master complex academic subjects while learning ancient Hebrew texts, religious law interpretation, and modern Israeli culture without experiencing cognitive overload that would challenge most university students with advanced degrees in religious studies and supernatural multitasking abilities. Private international schools offer familiar educational approaches at tuition costs that exceed most families' annual housing budgets, creating educational luxury experiences that provide smoother transitions for immigrant children while ensuring parents work multiple jobs to afford schooling that costs more than some people's university education and probably includes amenities that surpass most resort facilities. Academic standards in Israeli schools involve homework loads that suggest children should dedicate their entire existence to educational achievement, while examination structures require memorization abilities that would challenge professional memory competition athletes and stress management skills that most adults haven't developed through decades of professional pressure and life experience. Age-specific considerations, developmental timing, comedy. Young children ages 3 to 7 adapt to new environments with enthusiasm that makes parents feel intellectually inadequate, acquiring Hebrew through mysterious linguistic absorption processes that apparently bypass normal learning requirements while simultaneously questioning why their parents speak Hebrew like confused tourists asking for bathroom directions in international airports. Elementary school-age children, ages 8 to 12, experience academic transition challenges that transform previously confident students into homework-avoiding anxiety cases who suddenly claim they're too tired for school activities they previously enjoyed, while developing Hebrew proficiency that enables them to correct their parents' pronunciation during family conversations about grocery shopping and municipal services. Adolescents, ages 13 to 18, encounter immigration stress combined with typical teenage developmental issues, creating emotional combinations that would challenge professional therapists with specialized training in adolescent psychology and supernatural patience for managing dramatic emotional expressions about life, unfairness that now includes legitimate complaints about cultural displacement and identity confusion alongside normal teenage angst about acne and social acceptance. High school-age immigrants face Israel's Bagrut examination system that requires academic performance levels, suggesting Israeli educational authorities believe teenagers possess supernatural study abilities and stress tolerance that most adults haven't developed through decades of professional challenges and life experience, while simultaneously navigating social integration challenges that affect both academic performance and psychological well-being. College-age children may benefit from Israeli university opportunities that provide excellent education at reasonable costs, assuming they can navigate Hebrew language requirements, cultural adaptation challenges, and social integration processes while maintaining academic performance levels that satisfy both parental expectations and Israeli educational standards that apparently exceed most international university requirements. Language acquisition, linguistic family dynamics revolution. Children's Hebrew acquisition occurs through immersion processes that transform families' communication patterns, where children rapidly become more linguistically competent than their parents, creating household dynamics resembling international diplomatic negotiations, requiring translation services for basic family conversations about dinner preferences and weekend activity planning. Hebrew immersion through school attendance accelerates language learning through educational torture methods that involve learning complex academic subjects in developing second languages, creating temporary academic struggles that make parents question immigration decisions, while children develop bilingual abilities that will eventually become impressive resume qualifications and cocktail party conversation topics. Maintaining English proficiency while acquiring Hebrew requires family strategies that compete with Hebrew acquisition priorities, creating linguistic balance challenges that require educational resource allocation decisions resembling complicated business investment strategies for optimizing long-term intellectual development and professional opportunity maximization. Family communication evolution involves children becoming cultural interpreters for parents during encounters with Israeli bureaucracy, medical appointments, and social situations, creating role reversal scenarios where 8-year-olds explain government form requirements to their previously authoritative parents who suddenly depend on children for basic social navigation and administrative comprehension. Bilingual identity development affects children's cultural code-switching abilities that enable them to navigate different linguistic and cultural contexts with sophistication that makes their parents' cultural adaptation struggles seem like amateur performance art, requiring professional coaching for basic competency achievement in social interaction and community integration skills. Social integration, childhood diplomacy training. Israeli peer relationships operate according to social dynamics that make British playground politics seem like polite tea party conversations, where children must navigate friendship development, group acceptance, and social hierarchy understanding within cultural contexts that prioritize different social skills and behavioral expectations than British childhood social training typically provides. School social integration depends heavily on Hebrew proficiency, cultural knowledge, and social confidence that enables participation in group conversations about Israeli cultural references, shared experiences, and community activities that immigrant children initially lack but must acquire for successful peer relationship development and social belonging achievement. Extracurricular activities provide social integration opportunities through sports, music, and youth organizations that operate according to Israeli cultural norms requiring different participation styles, communication approaches, and social interaction patterns than British childhood activity programs that prioritize different values and behavioral expectations for successful group participation and skill development. Israeli youth culture includes elements such as youth movements, summer camps, and community activities that create social participation opportunities and cultural learning experiences, while requiring family financial investments and time commitments that compete with language learning, academic support, and family adjustment activities during already overwhelming immigration transition periods. Playground politics in Israeli schools involve conflict resolution approaches that encourage direct communication and assertive problem-solving rather than British conflict avoidance strategies that prioritize politeness and adult intervention for dispute resolution, requiring children to develop negotiation skills that would challenge most professional mediators with specialized training in diplomatic communication methods. Cultural identity development, heritage preservation comedy. Children's cultural identity formation involves balancing Israeli cultural adaptation with British heritage maintenance through family strategies that require more coordination than international treaty negotiations, while managing identity questions that would challenge professional philosophers with advanced degrees in multicultural identity theory and supernatural psychological insight abilities. Jewish identity development may be enhanced through Israeli experiences that provide deeper connections to Jewish history and community life, while potentially creating conflicts with previous diaspora Jewish identity formation that emphasize different values, practices, and community relationships, requiring psychological adjustment and identity integration skills exceeding most therapeutic intervention program outcomes. Heritage language preservation requires family dedication to maintaining English through reading programs, media consumption, and cultural activities that compete with Hebrew acquisition priorities and Israeli cultural integration requirements, creating household linguistic policies that resemble international language preservation initiatives requiring government-level planning and resource allocation strategies. Extended family relationships require maintenance strategies across geographic distances and cultural differences that affect children's connections to grandparents, cousins, and family traditions, while children's evolving cultural identities may create communication challenges and relationship dynamics that require diplomatic skills for maintaining family harmony across international boundaries and cultural development differences. Cultural celebration coordination involves managing British and Israeli holiday observances, family traditions, and cultural practices through scheduling that would challenge professional event planners with supernatural organizational abilities while explaining cultural significance and identity importance to children who may prefer focusing on immediate social integration rather than abstract cultural continuity concepts. Special needs, international support system navigation. Children with learning disabilities or special needs require transition planning that involves understanding Israeli support systems, service delivery models, and educational accommodations through research and advocacy processes that would challenge most professional special education consultants with advanced degrees in international disability services coordination and supernatural bureaucratic navigation abilities. Special education services in Israel operate according to different assessment procedures, qualification criteria, and resource allocation approaches that may provide better or worse support than British systems, requiring evaluation and advocacy skills that most parents develop through necessity rather than professional training in special needs, educational law, and service delivery system analysis. Therapeutic service transitions involve finding Hebrew-speaking professionals or culturally adapted treatment approaches that maintain service quality and effectiveness while addressing language barriers, cultural differences, and treatment continuity challenges that affect ongoing therapy outcomes and developmental progress achievement during already stressful immigration adjustment periods. Medical care coordination for children with chronic conditions requires understanding Israeli healthcare systems, pediatric specialist availability, and medication accessibility through navigation processes that make British NHS complexity seem like straightforward consumer transactions rather than bureaucratic obstacle courses requiring professional advocacy skills and supernatural persistence abilities. Educational accommodation advocacy involves understanding Israeli special education law and procedural requirements through legal research and school district navigation that most parents acquire through trial and error rather than professional training in educational law and disability rights advocacy techniques designed for optimal student outcome achievement and family stress minimization. Family dynamics, household democracy revolution. Parental authority structures may require adjustment as children acquire cultural knowledge and language skills that exceed their parents' capabilities, creating household dynamics where children become advisors, translators, and cultural guides for parents who previously maintained positions of superior knowledge and decision-making authority through life experience and adult competency advantages. Family stress management becomes crucial for maintaining household stability while managing multiple simultaneous adjustment challenges that affect all family members differently, creating emotional complexity that requires therapeutic skills most parents develop through necessity rather than professional training in family crisis management and multicultural adjustment psychology. Decision-making processes may shift toward increased child participation as children become cultural experts and language interpreters, creating family democracy levels that exceed most parents' comfort zones while requiring negotiation skills for maintaining appropriate parent-child relationships and household authority structures during cultural transition periods. Extended family relationship maintenance requires managing guilt about geographic distance, cultural changes, and children's evolving identities that may become less connected to relatives who remain in the UK, while coordinating communication, visits, and cultural connection activities that maintain family relationships across international boundaries and cultural development differences. Support network development involves building relationships with other immigrant families, established community members, and professional services that provide practical assistance and emotional support, while managing social calendar coordination that would challenge most professional event planners with supernatural organizational abilities and time management skills. Community resources, integration support system, navigation. Israeli community resources vary dramatically between locations with established immigrant populations versus newer communities that may lack English-speaking support services, immigrant-specific programming, or cultural sensitivity training for service providers who assume all residents possess native Hebrew proficiency and cultural knowledge that immigrant families haven't yet acquired. School-based support programs may include Hebrew language instruction, cultural orientation activities, and academic assistance that varies in quality and effectiveness based on school resources, staff training, and administrative priorities that may not prioritize immigrant student needs over established student populations with different support requirements and educational backgrounds. Community organizations provide social activities, cultural programming, and family support services that require research and evaluation skills for identifying appropriate resources and program quality, while managing participation scheduling that competes with language learning, academic support, and family adjustment activities during already overwhelming immigration transition periods. Professional counseling services for children experiencing adjustment difficulties may require searching for English-speaking or culturally sensitive mental health providers through healthcare systems that operate according to different service delivery models, referral processes, and treatment approaches than British mental health services that families previously relied upon for psychological support and intervention. Youth programs and summer camps designed for immigrant children provide supportive environments for social integration and cultural exploration at costs that often exceed family vacation budgets, while requiring transportation arrangements, activity coordination, and social integration support that competes with other family priorities and resource allocation during financially stressful immigration establishment periods. Long-term impact, developmental investment analysis. Research suggests that successful childhood immigration often produces benefits including bilingual abilities, multicultural competencies, and adaptability skills that provide competitive advantages in increasingly globalized educational and professional environments, assuming children successfully navigate initial adjustment challenges without developing psychological trauma, requiring expensive therapeutic intervention throughout their adult lives. Academic outcomes vary based on factors including family support, educational resources, and individual resilience that require ongoing monitoring and intervention strategies. While parents maintain optimistic expectations about long-term educational success, despite current homework battles, language struggles, and academic performance anxiety that suggests their children may never recover from immigration-related educational trauma. Career opportunities may be enhanced by bilingual abilities and international perspectives that provide professional advantages years after initial adjustment difficulties resolve. Assuming children develop sufficient cultural competence and psychological resilience to leverage immigration experiences for positive career outcomes rather than requiring ongoing therapy for cultural displacement trauma and identity confusion management. Identity integration typically evolves over extended periods as children develop sophisticated cultural navigation abilities and maintain diverse relationships across multiple cultural contexts. While parents wonder whether their children will ever forgive them for immigration decisions that disrupted childhood stability for theoretical long-term benefits that may or may not actually materialize through successful cultural adaptation, family relationships often strengthen through shared immigration experiences and cultural adaptation challenges, though adjustment periods may involve temporary conflict, communication difficulties, and identity negotiation processes that require patience, understanding, and possibly professional family therapy for maintaining healthy relationships while managing cultural transition stress and identity development challenges. The ultimate children and family consideration reality reveals that successful family immigration requires accepting that children will adapt more successfully than parents while maintaining family relationships, cultural values, and psychological stability throughout adjustment processes that challenge every assumption about parenting competence, cultural identity, and family dynamics that previously seemed stable and manageable before voluntarily disrupting entire family systems through international relocation decisions motivated by optimism, idealism, and possibly temporary insanity about immigration benefits that assume successful outcomes, despite overwhelming adjustment complexity and psychological challenges affecting all family members simultaneously. This magnificent family adventure ensures that by completion, parents will have developed crisis management skills that qualify them for professional family counseling careers, cultural adaptation expertise that exceeds most international development program training, and psychological resilience for maintaining sanity while supporting multiple family members through adjustment processes that test human adaptability limits and parenting capabilities beyond most family psychology preparation programs and parenting advice literature designed for normal family development challenges within stable cultural environments.